Hello, my name is Peter West, and I have an awesome product to show you. I'm very excited to be able to announce this today and demonstrate this new product. Today I have the brand new 24-port 2.5 gigabit per second PoE Plus Enterprise Rugged Switch. This is an upgrade of the previous rugged switches. The rugged switches in the Peplink line of products has been absolutely amazing. The 8-port, the 16-port, and the 24-port of the previous years. This is the new generation 24-port, kind of matching the new enterprise switches that we have already shown you. And if you haven't seen, check out. But this is our new 2.5 gig PoE Plus 24-port switch design, and it's going to be very similar to the previous 24 or the new 24-port enterprise, but it's going to be rugged. And so let me show you that. So in the box, we're going to have our 24-port switch. We're going to get a little power supply box, an accessories box, and a supercharged connectivity QR code setup guide. What Peplink has started doing, which I find really nice, is they're putting the serial number stickers on the plastic bag, and they give you 2 stickers. You can put one on the side, front, one on the side, maybe one on a cable. And so we're getting some serial number stickers, which is really nice because historically the Peplink switches and devices, the serial number's on the bottom, and when this is in a rack, it's really hard to see the serial numbers. This is it, guys. The 24-port, 2.5 gig PoE Plus rugged switch with triple, or technically quadruple, power input. We have 2 54-volt DC inputs for your redundant power supplies that comes with a 300-watt power supply. I think it's rated for 250, but it's 54-volt times 5.56 so amps, so it's 300 watts. And then you have the terminal connection that has 4 inputs. So you could actually have 2 positive and 2 negative there going into 54-volt if you want PoE Plus support. So this is going to give you dual power supply capability if you need it. On top of that, we kind of have the same design as the 24-port switch. You're going to have 16 single gigabit PoE Plus ports. You're going to have 8 2.5 gigabit PoE Plus ports. And now with the new 24-port Enterprise and the 24-port Rugged, 4 10 gigabit SFP Plus. And this is super nice because you can trunk to new switches and still have 2 ports where you could plug in a 10 gigabit SFP and have 10 gigabit fiber to go down to switches or devices or anything that might need 10 gigabit. So it's really nice added capability here of the 24-port switch design. Let's look at the specs. So you can see here we got the switch series, 24-port PoE 2.5 gig switch rugged, ruggedized fanless enclosure, 2x power den 54-volt DC, 1x terminal box 12-volt to 54-volt. So if you do 12-volt, you get no PoE. You can still have the 2.5 gigabit and the gigabit and the 10 gigabit, but no PoE. If you do 54-volt, you get your PoE Plus. And you can see kind of here a comparison matrix between the 24 and the 24 Enterprise and the Rugged. So you can see they're both 16 gigabit PoE Plus, 8 2.5 gigabit PoE Plus, 4 10 gigabit. That's actually fiber, not Ethernet. 152 gigabits of switch capacity, 16,000 MAC address tables. And here's the big difference here, power supply. 1 external 300 watt, or 1 internal 480 watt. But you can buy a second external PSU 300 watt, so giving you 600 watts, but also redundancy. You have 2x power den at 54 volts, so you can do 2x right 54 volt right into it. The system only consumes 38 watts, giving you a PoE budget of 250 watts. Operating range, you can see this is the big difference, negative 40 to 150 Fahrenheit versus 32 to 122 Fahrenheit. So that's really the big difference here, negative 40 to 65 and 0 to 50. So that's going to be your big difference between the Rugged and the Enterprise switches. The new ordering information for this is the PLS. The old switches were like PSW or PWS. The new ones are PLSR24 H2G 250 watt. So let's open up these components here and take a look at what comes in the box, these accessory boxes. In the big box, we're going to get this really nice, beefy power supply. This is much more beefy than the previous generation power supplies. 300 watt, has the 54 volt input here, and you're going to have that, and you could buy another one of these for dual power supply capabilities. You're going to get your power cord, and something to note about this is very similar to your enterprise Cisco and other products, even Starlink. It has that notch in it. So you can see that it has the notch right here. This is that kind of, I always associate this with enterprise products. I don't know why they do it, but basically it's that notched one, so be aware of that. You're going to get some rubber feet to be able to set this on the table if you want. And then you're going to get some rack installing gear if you need to. Take the power, and this is like a little pull to release. So what I like to do is pull it. If you pull it and slide it in, and then it'll lock into place. And then it's going to be stuck in there. And then so to pull it out, you want to pull that slide, pull out, and then it's going to come out. So you can lock it into place, and it's kind of locked in, and then you can pull that out to pull it out. The 48-port enterprise switch connected to my new 24-port rugged switch, and something that I'm going to try to get my microphone close to it. These things are much, much quieter than the old switches. I mean, very, very nice, not noisy at all. The 24-port rugged makes no noise, it's fanless. But the new switch series, I can have this running all day long, and it's not noisy. Powering my setup here is a Transit 5G, so I've got that set up. I got that, actually this was gifted to me by the guys over in Australia from Rising Connection and M2M, so thank you for this. It's been great kind of complement of this new style. And so I've got my Transit Pro going into the 48-port switch, the 48-port switch going into the 24-port rugged, and that way I can bring it online and show you the UI. So I've got my 24-port switch rugged. I added it to InControl. So if you set up your InControl organization, you'll create a group. And then when you have your group, you can come here and go to Settings and Add Device, put in the serial number of your router, and once you do that, you'll be able to name it. And so there's my 24-port rugged switch, and you can see right there I've got my 24-port rugged switch. And so I can click on this, and there's a couple things to note that's different with these devices. First, they default now, if I click Show Port List, they default to Access VLAN 1. That is different than the previous switches. So your default is going to be access on the Peplink's untagged network, but this is designed to be compatible with your Cisco or Aruba or other product lines. The idea here is being access on VLAN 1 sets it as a default standard on a more enterprise scale, and so I'm pretty happy with that. And so to make sure you can manage your VLANs on your switches, you go to your group level. I can go to Network Settings, VLAN Networks, and I can scroll all the way down to the bottom. You see this default VLAN for SD switches? You want to make sure that's set to VLAN 1. And Peplink's sort of, I think they've removed the edit button in Venus, so this is sort of the testing Peplink InControl. But yeah, you want to make sure the default VLAN is set to VLAN 1. That's sort of a required permanent, and we have PVIDs, and you can change that. Then you can add VLANs, and so you can see here I've got VLAN 1 all SD switches. If I click New VLAN, I can say Guest VLAN, and we'll make it VLAN 500. And I can make this on all routers, access points, and switches, all routers and switches, or just switches. So if I put it on routers and switches, it wants a VLAN ID here. So I'll just do 172.29.50.1, give it a subnet /24. Do you want inter VLAN routing? Yes or no? I'm going to say no because it's a guest network. I can assign a captive portal to this. So I can say assign the captive portal for the Tech Summit or none. I can enable DHCP for this VLAN, and then I can hit save. Now that I've created VLAN 500, and I told it to show up on all MAX routers and switches, I can go back to my dashboard, go to my rugged switch, and I'm going to see right here, I've got VLAN networks on this switch. I've got the default VLAN 1 and my guest VLAN 500. Now I can trunk those VLANs. So I can click here and go show port list. I can edit this. I can select all. I could change this to trunk. I can choose my PVID. I can set my primary VLAN ID to 500 if I want to. None or default VLAN. We'll say default VLAN. Then I can set my VLAN to custom or a specific trunk VLAN. So I can say custom and choose my untagged and my VLAN 500. So now, very quickly, I edited all 24 of these ports, and I just configured them to trunk ports with a primary VLAN ID as VLAN 1, trunking my guest VLAN and my VLAN 500. Then I can unselect all, select 2 or 3 ports here that might be going to corporate stuff, and uncheck the guest network. And so now these first 4 ports only are trunking VLAN 1 with a primary VLAN ID as VLAN 1, and the guest VLAN has no access to these ports. So we're turning off inter-VLAN routing, but I'm also turning off the ability for that VLAN to even talk on these ports. And that's a big deal, for when you're talking about securing your network and managing your VLANs. When you select all, I'll select all again. When you select all, you'll see that it doesn't select the SFP ports. So you can't SFP, you can't select all and manage your SFP. So you want to make sure you manage those separately if you're selecting all. The other thing you can see is that we've added some features here to the device. So you can turn on and off your PoE. You can also enable, turn on and off rapid spanning tree protocol. You can also turn on and off loop protection. So if I want to do loop protection, once again, I can select all, and then I can literally select this and say active or passive loop protection. If I say active, because I've select all, any change made to one of these line items will be propagated to all of them. So I've turned on active loop protection, and now all of them have active loop protection enabled. And so when you make a change, select all and make a change, it does change them all, and it matches the one you're changed. So you can notice I just removed VLAN 500 from all of my devices. So you want to make sure you're paying attention when you're doing the select all, because you're editing all of those. Any changes made to one of them will be made to all of them. And then I'd have to go through and turn back on this guest VLAN for the ports that I want to use it on if I wanted to do that. That's one aspect there. Then I can come in here and I can select all of the SFPs if I wanted to, scroll down, and once again I could make them a trunk ports, set their primary VLAN ID, and set it to custom and select all. And now my trunk ports, or my 10 gigabit, will also be trunking the VLANs. And then I can come here and turn on my active loop protection if I want to, or I can make it passive loop protection if I want to. Hit Save Changes, hit OK, and now you can see that I've got my trunk ports set up. My primary VLAN ID is VLAN 1. I'm allowing guest network on these ports. I'm allowing guest network on the trunk ports here. Right now they're all in discarding state for RSTP, and my loop protection is active on the Ethernet and passive on the trunk ports. So you can configure this, and now we've programmed this switch in just a matter of a few seconds, not to mention also talking about it and explaining it. It's really nice. You can add your VLANs, you can set up your VLAN profiles. If you're using a PepLink router with these, you can also manage that VLAN and create like an SDN, right? So we have our SD-WAN for WAN management, multi-WAN connectivity. Then we have our SDN for software-defined networking for all of our LAN and trunking. So it kind of eliminates the idea of a core switch architecture. The PepLink router becomes a core switch for small and medium businesses. It's a great way to remove extra overhead and allow for a nice, reliable, scalable network. Either way, with this fanless, rugged, high-temperature design, we have an amazing switch platform that offers more throughput, more scalability, better capability for just increasing the capabilities of mobile networking or hard-to-reach areas, or industrial spaces. It's been a great product for several years now, and so now we have this new higher performance 2.5 gig 24 port switch. I hope this helped. I hope you could see the setup process with me and that you can enjoy this on your own. You can pre-order these right now on buypeplink.com, and we'll put you in the queue if you want to make that happen.